What's good, everybody? What's going on, man? It's Stephen Qualls II, aka Mr. Qualified. It's your boy, and we're back for another episode of the Wright Quality Podcast. My brother, please remind the people of who you are.
Not Emilio this week. It is Miguel. God bless. Got the first word. Oh man. Oh yeah. How have you been? What's been new?
Man, nothing much. I've been watching a lot more basketball. At least trying to intentionally, like we were literally just saying, like just watching a lot of the games with playoff implications. For most teams, all of their games have some type of serious playoff implication, because whether you're trying to get seeding at the top or whether you're trying to make the play-in, these last 20 games are important for almost virtually everybody except maybe like the Spurs, the Rockets, the Magic, and the Hornets. Literally for everybody, every other team fighting in the playoffs.
On Wemby.
Right, one of them. If the lottery even goes there.
No.
So yeah, but no, man, it's been a really
We'll see.
It's been a really interesting week. My biggest takeaway from the games I've been able to see this week. So I watched the Kings play twice. I've been really intentional about trying to actually watch their games.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're a championship contender this year. I'm just saying that they are legit. Like they're legit. Like they're a legit team. Like those are going to be 4 hard games. Whoever's playing them, it's going to be 4 hard games to win. So I don't know if I'm ready to commit to them as a dark horse just yet, but they're good. They're good enough to compete. And if a team is not on their A game, they can
have like an injury here or there or some sort of chemistry issue. They click. They have a really good system that like fits around them. I was just telling you off screen, like it reminds me of OKC back in the day. Just like whoever gets that board goes, and they just like create off of them. It's like a nice little situation they got going down there.
Hey man, I'm not gonna lie to you. Their duo, because Fox is when he reaches the level, when he takes the next step in regards to, I can't even say it's being more consistent. He just becomes a little bit more complete. It's not that he's not really complete right now, but when he just takes that next step of like, no, I'm averaging, like I had to look up his averages this year because I don't want to get him wrong. But when he's like, oh no, I'm averaging like 26, 27 and 9 or 10, like that's a given for me. Like when he's doing that, he's gonna be a real issue. Like I think they'll struggle because they don't have a lot of playoff experience. Like him and Sabonis, because Sabonis is different. Like he's a dog. Like, and it's the way that he affects the game. I would almost say he's a more efficient and offensively better Draymond.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Julius Randle.
No, because
they just played, and it was like kind of similar, but some key differences in terms of playmaking, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So I was going to say Julius Randle is still at his core like a scorer. He has some of the other abilities, but he's still a focal point. Like, if Sabonis is your focal point, he's in a Draymond Green kind of role, which is cool, perfectly fine. I just think
what Ben Simmons was supposed to be,
because Ben's more athletic than Sabonis, so we should be saying that they're like there, but Ben is the standard. But
guard version that can't shoot for some reason. Sorry, didn't mean it.
No, it's okay.
But I mean, in terms of player comparison, that's where I see that.
For sure. But
making big.
Yeah.
MVP combo. Can Jokic win an MVP without playing defense? A triple crown MVP without playing defense. LeBron was so close to doing it. I feel like Shaq was also very close. The only one is Larry Bird that could have done it. How Giannis hasn't done it, also a question. Does he deserve to get that status? Like Steph could have had it at any point. Does he deserve the Triple Crown MVP with all these advanced stats? Yes, amazing. The eye test, though. Can he do that? Do we reward that? We can't, right? Okay. Sorry.
No. It's okay. I need to find it because you're asking very valid questions. Will Jokic more than likely get the Triple Crown MVP? He more than likely will. And the reason that he will is because this is actually the year that he should win it. This is the year where one would argue, all things considered, depending on what you consider within MVP conversation, it probably should go to Jokic this year. It probably should. The problem is the previous 2 years, you can argue that Jokic, he was in the running, but he probably should have been second or third. Now, I don't remember if there was a year that Steph was up there. I think it was. I think the year the Warriors didn't make
the first year.
I think that was the first year.
The fact that Steph was in that conversation. Well, I know it's an amazing year, but come on now.
So, but that's why they were. But that year, it was just Steph, and he had a career year. And the only reason they were in the midst of the play-in to begin with was because of him and his career year. Mind you, this is before Poole took that big leap. And they just had all these young players, and it was just Steph. So Steph,
but I feel like Giannis had a case too, but it was just that wasn't it back to back.
It was like Steph was in the conversation. I think Giannis probably was, and I don't know if Embiid was that year, but I want to say he
bubbled up a little bit.
And then Jokic, but Jokic got that one. Jokic got the first one. Oh no, actually, I thought Embiid should have won that year. I think it was between Steph, Embiid, and Jokic, and I thought Embiid should have won because I thought that was at that point Embiid's best year. So he wins last year, and you could easily have made an argument for Embiid again because I think he finished second both years. Actually, you can make the argument for Embiid again, or you could have made the argument for Giannis, but it went to Jokic. And one of those years, I think it was last year. Yeah, Denver was a 6 seed. But Jokic got it because Murray was out.
Everyone was out.
Yeah, everyone was out. So that's why he got it. Okay. So now we get to this year.
Okay.
Has a healthy team, right? But now they're the best team.
Yep.
Now they're the best team, or got second best record in the league. The numbers are still there. I mean,
But seed behind who? Who are they the number one seed behind?
The Bucks. But Giannis is pushing it. He's pushing it because he's missing a lot of games. And granted,
these last 2-3, yeah.
Yeah, and granted, I mean, I'm not mad at him for missing, because if he needs to make sure it's healed and everything. But I think that would hurt his case because the stretches of game he's missed throughout the season, I think it starts to tally up once we get closer to 82. So I don't know if he'd still be in the running or not technically. But
he would be. But playing that Golden State one would have been big, just in terms of national media seeing him play.
Yeah,
that being pushed game to game. We only have so many national games, and I feel like certain teams definitely get more too. So more eyes.
Yeah, so I think that's the issue. So it's hard to answer whether he's deserving or not because he's been in the conversation each year, whether he won or not, he was in the conversation. And you can't argue that the stats are there.
They're amazing. Sorry, I sound like a hater. The stats are phenomenal.
So it's hard to say that he's not deserving. I just think that when we look at this Triple Crown, I don't think we can say that he was the best. And I don't think he was the most valuable player in the league for 3 years in a row.
No.
I can't definitively say that head above others, he was more valuable to his team. And nor can I really say that he played a bigger role for his team than others did, especially with how far those teams ended up going. Right now, granted, if the MVP, if it's a regular season thing, then you can cap it at, I guess, wherever you're seated at. You know what I'm saying? But he's going to get it, and it's going to be a conversation. But I think what's going to make it difficult to argue is that this is the year that he probably should win it. So that would probably be the foundation of a lot of people's argument. And it's hard because we can't go back the last 2 years, and we can all argue like who should have got it, but he has them.
Got it.
So is what it is. But it's tough, man. I think the defensive. I don't know, because then it goes into how much is the two-way aspect playing a role, in MVP, because that may not be your role on the team. Like his role on the team isn't defense. So
I mean, is he the most valuable then? If he's not impacting the game in multiple facets, does he not, like, even though Brook Lopez plays the defensive aspect in Milwaukee, it's not like Giannis doesn't have to play defense because he has other people to save him necessarily. He's still playing defense at a very high level. Maybe not in years past where he's getting like 1.5 blocks and steals a game, like where he was like really up there when he got DPOY too. But he's still impacting like shots, percentages, like, and they don't have to like sub him during like key situations, key matchups.
Yeah, they just impact the game differently. Like Giannis has the ability to impact on both ends of the floor. Like he does. He has that skill set. Jokic just doesn't have that skill set. But if you want me to sit here and try to make it seem like the way that Jokic doesn't impact the game in the stamp he leaves on every single game that he plays, like I can't do that. Like I can't argue that. Like there's not really anybody that can bring exactly what Jokic brings. Like are you
Sengun?
Stop it.
Yusuf Nurkic.
I want Nurkic to be so much better and consistent than what he is, because I feel like he's that skilled. But I don't know, man. So I mean, it's hard because especially with Denver, like they're gonna be one in the West, right? So they're gonna have one of the top 2-3 records in the league.
Yep.
The focal point of your team is going to be averaging a triple double, and they're going to be like, well, where's the argument? Especially if he's played more games than Giannis.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if he's played more than Embiid, to be honest, but Embiid's numbers are also pretty ridiculous. And the Sixers are probably a top 5 record. Potentially, I had to double check that, but I think they're a top 5 record.
That might be correct.
So, and it's hard because at that point, then you're just splitting hairs. So, but I think the way the narrative's been going, and at this point, I think they have the narrative is already there. They have to triple crown them, because now if they don't, the conversation is going to be, why didn't he get triple crown?
Lord knows. Yeah, I think, but that happened with all the greats. They did it to Bron. That man voted for Carmelo Anthony. I'll never speak his name. I wouldn't know his name. But what a joke.
Absolutely.
Well, I guess, sorry, I'm talking about unanimous MVP. Sorry, because Steph got that. And that was the only time there's not a unanimous MVP. But not to say that players in times where they got 2 MVPs in a row, they didn't deserve a third one or didn't have an equally as great season to earn it. And yeah, I'm not going to take away shine from Jokic. He definitely is deserving this year. His team has been balling, number 1 seed behind the Bucks. But, let's give him his flowers. He'll be good.
Yeah.
Brown, thank you for your reasoning. Now I'm a little bit more understanding, the viewers a little bit more understanding of why he is deserving. That's exactly why I asked that question. So,
yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of people that are going to argue otherwise, and there are arguments to be made on both sides. So it's not like one side needs to be convinced to see the light. Like it depends on where you stand. Either you don't think it's a problem with it, or either you think things should have been done differently in the past. And it can be true, but it is what it is. But we've been talking like within the conversation about Jokic and even a lot of the other MVPs that we've mentioned, they're all the number one option on their team, right? But recently, this is probably about like a couple weeks ago. Did you hear or see the Paul George quote or the clip?
Oh, that he couldn't be a number one. He realized he wasn't that guy.
Right. So don't have to dive too deep into that.
I'm sorry, that's a crazy statement.
It's a crazy statement, but is it?
But like really? He's saying that he's a team player essentially. He's like, yeah, but I mean,
honestly, I don't even think it's that, right? I don't think it's that. Let's be honest here, okay? PG is an amazing talent, an amazing talent. One of the better and more skilled two-way players that we've seen in the league, especially in his time, right?
Yeah.
But does Paul George have it? Have we ever mentioned Paul George in the conversation with the guys that are like, no, these are top players in the league. These are guys that can go to any team and they have a shot, like at a championship.
There was a point in time the Clippers traded for him. They traded the entire franchise. They traded essentially now Shea, a player who's arguably better than Paul George now, and their entire future for PG to play with Kawhi because they thought that they were getting that level of guy. That's crazy.
Well, one, that's really interesting that you say Shea is better than PG now. That's definitely gonna have to be a question that we ask the viewers to tap in on, because that's really interesting to say. But even with the Clippers trading all of that for PG, why do they do that? What's the only reason that they make that move?
Kawhi.
Because that's what Kawhi wanted. Kawhi said, "Get me Paul George." So, in the grand scheme of things, I'm not sitting here saying that I didn't have the same reaction. Like, bro, you really said that? Because he's been put in situations where he's supposed to be the guy, or he's supposed to be a 1B to a 1A. But if PG is robbing, he's robbing. And some people are robbing, right? Like, and that's okay. Like, some people aren't going to be Batman. Everybody's not going to be Batman. I don't expect Middleton to go somewhere and be Batman. That doesn't mean he's not a great number two. Now, am I necessarily comparing Middleton to Paul George? No. But also, let's not act like he's not in the wheelhouse. Like, I don't think saying Middleton is in the wheelhouse of a Paul George and some of the things that they can do similarly. Like, let's not act like that's a stretch to say.
You put Chris Middleton on the Orlando Magic, you have a championship level team. Let the viewers talk about that one. Let them. Yeah.
No, they don't. That's a reach.
Yeah,
that's a reach.
Talk about it. He is not an elite level ball handler, but playmaker. You have him. You have Bol, you have Franz Wagner, Paolo. You have athletic people that can work around a pick and roll for him. He could hit a shot. They actually have someone that could have that playoff medal and score late in situations and, do what he does. I'll hold that.
If he went to the Magic, right, he would be.
That's a championship level. I meant to say playoff level, like strong.
Okay.
Playoff. Okay. Sorry. I just thought about the words that came out of my mouth. Ooh. Maybe, yeah. I was a little, no. Playoff level. Sorry, different words. Different words. Oof. Got ahead of myself. Yeah, that Bucks fandom really popped. Oof.
No. All right. Because listen, man. Okay, no, because that's why I'm like, yo, wait a minute. Because championship?
Okay.
My response was going to be, oh, they definitely are a playoff team. Like, they're a legitimate playoff team if that happens, but championship? No. I was like, not at all. Far.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, playoff team. Ooh. But I mean, but again, if PG went, what were the Indiana Pacers when PG was the guy, right?
They were arguably a championship level team. Roy Hibbert.
Arguably.
They were the team that was supposed to stop the Heat. They were the team.
So that's my thing. That's my thing. If you are the guy up until you run against one of the real guys, then you're not that guy. Like that's what that is. Because
okay, even with Golden State, because did they get one before Bron went to Cleveland, and that's why they had to call KD? Okay, wait, because then Steph isn't that guy because he had one of his guys, Draymond, call up the other guy, KD.
They won the first one. The Warriors won the first one.
Okay. But then it's just like, okay, is Steph that guy for having, the second best shooter in the league and
a
DPOY candidate?
So do you know why the argument is that Steph is still that guy? Because
he never left and he didn't run from the grind.
Not even that, but one, Steph had more to prove to be that guy, to truly be like that guy that he is now. He had more to prove. And then two, even when KD gets there, KD is able to operate the way he is because he's playing with Steph Curry.
And everything is so open.
And I'm sorry, it's not the other way around. Like Kevin Durant is playing with Steph Curry because Steph Curry is getting the attention. Like Steph Curry is getting the doubles. He's getting the attention. I'm not saying KD didn't, and I'm not saying that. But when you prepare, so look at it like this: if you're going to pick your poison,
KD not that guy. Is he not that? That's a bigger question.
KD can be. He has not proven to be, but KD has all the elements. Because my original question was, what all goes in to being a number one option, or like that number one guy? What are all the components that goes into being that guy on a team, like in general? If we were going to get
scoring,
okay,
a solid enough playmaker, like makes his teammates better, doesn't make them worse.
Yeah.
A plus on defense or neutral, a plus or neutral on defense, like not a strong liability.
Right.
I guess what clutch gene, leader component.
Okay, I was gonna say clutch will be 4, and then I think leadership would be the 5th. Like you have those 5 things. You're a franchise player 9 times out of 10. Well, if the skill is there, you're a franchise player, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that have 3, maybe 4, but they don't have all 5.
Yeah, true.
So I think so using Paul George as the example, it's like I don't think, like, is this something that maybe a lot of people wouldn't have said out loud? Sure,
100%.
Right? But in all honesty, he's probably not that guy. And I think you hear a lot of people in the league talk about you have to know your role. Like how many players are playing roles and playing somewhat and have a limited role on a team. We've seen it time and time again. Players have one role on one team. They look a certain way. They go to another team with more freedom, or they have the ball more. Now all of a sudden we're seeing them do more. And we were like, why weren't they doing it over here? Because like if you're playing with XYZ, your role may not be to go get 15, 20 or to have the ball for 15 seconds of the possession. But if you go somewhere and you only playing with X, or you ain't got no other letters with you, you know what I'm saying? Then it's just like, all right, well, I got the ball for 16 because it's just me, or I'm the main source of, all the playmaking. So then things look different, and then you get more comfortable with that, and you have more confidence with that. So it all depends. But I think knowing your role and knowing that, okay, like if I'm robbing, then I'm robbing. Robbing is still very important because Batman alone isn't enough to get over the hump. Batman alone can make you a contender. Hell, Batman alone might get you to the finals. We're seeing LeBron all the time, right? But unless you have a Robin, unless you have a true Robin, it ain't happening. So
no,
but yeah, man. No, that was the components of a number one option was a question because I think as much parity as there is in the league, and as much as there's so much talent all around, I think it's maybe not important, but I think it's interesting to see which guys are elevating themselves out of just the gen pop of talent in the league, right? Because there was another question about who is the next face of the league, right? And that has a lot of different layers to it. Because when we're talking about face of the league, does face correlate or is it equal to best player in the league? Or are you just like the most recognizable or the most associated face and name of the league? And you're in the conversation of best players, but you may not be like the just best basketball player, on the planet, as we say. What are your thoughts on how you would define face of the league, if you think is equal to or correlated to the best player, and then also who do you think it is now, and then who do you think it will be in, say, 5 years?
So in terms of face of the league, I feel like generally attractive. So there goes Jokic, there goes KD. Yeah. In terms of like solid, very, very good players, like that's a part of marketability. Like, I'm gonna be real. I don't know if Jokic, he could be the triple crown, he could be the greatest offensive big, greatest passing big we've ever had. Will he ever be a face of the league? Probably not. To be very real about it, like, Giannis. Oh God, that's a great move. Speaking of Jokic, ballerina spin move through the paint, just gentle, can't stop him. I digress. He can't be the face of the league just for like it is. Here's the big 5 for that. You need to be generally attractive. You need to be a top 5 player in the league. You need to be charismatic. You need to be, in terms of charismatic, you need to be like a you have to be marketable.
Personality.
Like you're kind of clean. You're kind of clean. You don't have too much, like, you're not too rough around the edges. Like Russ could never be the face of the league, even though, like, Mr. Triple Double. Like, and then what's the 5th one? What's like the last? You need to be like marketable. You need to have like a generally good story, like a good, like, Jokic was drafted during a Taco Bell commercial, like stuff like that, where it's like, oh wow, like they came from something. The Giannis story, from humble beginnings. Bron, Steph.
Yeah,
you have the clips. You have the clips of him on the court with his dad. Like, you have like mementos. You need stuff to like look back at and also like kind of show this history of like who they became too. So I feel like that's like the big 5 of like what you need to be the face of the NBA, let alone like the face of a franchise.
No, I agree. I'm glad you get that top 5 too, because I think those are all the things that go into being the face, and that's also why I think that the face won't always be the best player. It can be, easily. Yeah. It could be that, but you might have somebody who is more marketable, like who is
Chris Paul.
Yeah, like like you may have a person who is a better ambassador, but that doesn't make them the best player. It just so happens that 9 times out of 10, if you're on that level, like if you're that great of a player and people are talking about you're the best player in the league or the best player on the planet, more than likely you probably have, within being in that stratosphere, you probably have started making sure you're not rough around the edges, making sure you're doing all the stuff to have your name out there, because
a PR team.
Yeah, like, because if you're that person in the league, then you have every marketing opportunity available to you, obviously.
Like, Ja was going to be, I think he was very close to being the face of the league, and then boom.
Well on his way. It's still early with that situation, so we don't know what he may be able to do to turn that around in terms of image and reputation, but agreed that he was well on his way for that. And so with that, I think that we can all agree that the era that is phasing out, right, and not necessarily immediately, but within the next 5, more than likely, right? Steph, Bron. This is like no order, but like Steph, Bron, KD. Really them in that era.
Derrick Rose hasn't retired yet.
Okay, yeah, not for the longevity argument, but I feel you. I get what you're saying. But I'm saying like players on that level, like that have been around for a decade plus now, right? That the roster of that era, especially of greats of that era, is dwindling in terms of who's left, right?
Yeah.
You could throw Harden in there if you want to.
He bridges that gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could throw Harden in there. So those type of players, right? We're seeing them come out like they're out there. They're out of their
wall. I'm just gonna keep throwing.
They're out of their peaks.
Stars in there.
Out of their peaks, out of their primes, right? Like still in the league, still producing, but not peak level, right? They're on the decline, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah.
So when they're like in 5 years, more than likely, Steph, LeBron, and KD will all be retired 9 times out of 10. At least Bron for sure, right? Yeah. I don't know how much long KD plays. Like, can KD play past 5 years? Probably.
Possible.
But I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what a 38-year-old Kevin Durant
looks like.
You know, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know if everybody is Bron in that regard. You know what I'm saying? And KD,
that's
I'm gonna say, and KD's been through, his body's been through much more than Bron has from an injury standpoint. So, but within that, as they start to phase out, who's next? And I think that for me, if you talk about that next crop of great players, Giannis, Embiid, Jokic,
Luka,
Tatum.
Is Dame? Where's Dame? In the last, he's the last. He's got to be with the last, right?
He would have to, and it's hard because he's kind of
in the James Harden part where he's like he's
they're in the middle of they're bridging the gap. But also I hate to say it, but I don't know if Dame has hit a ceiling. I don't know if Dame has hit his ceiling.
Yeah, you know,
like he's great. Dame is great. Like Dame is a great player.
He needs to have an accolade, like one general accolade that we can be like, this is what he did,
and he doesn't have that yet. And unfortunately, that
3-point competition,
if not a ring, right?
Olympic gold medal.
He has one, doesn't he?
Yeah. So there's, you know.
So, but if not a ring, it has to be an MVP. That's the only other accolade, unless he just started racking up like first team all NBAs. But
I mean, number one on the Billboard Awards, like, you know, like he has a top 10 trending song.
I mean, he probably would have that, but yeah, he bridges the gap, right? So it's hard, but also I don't know if Dame, because of that being in the bridging of the gap space, I don't know if it's a real opportunity for him to ever be in that like face of the league conversation,
right?
Because it's just you come in when it's damn near Bron, you know, and KD and them, and then by the time you go out, you have people who have already started to eclipse you in a way because they've won a championship, or you know, they have more accolades, they have MVPs and defensive players of the years, and have made deeper playoff runs or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard. They just fall, like greatness is greatness, but they just kind of fall in the middle of that gap when we're talking about that true top tier of the NBA, when we're talking about face of the league, best player on the planet, all of that. You're hilarious. But yeah, so who's that guy though out of that new class? Who's that guy? Is there an undoubtedly like new face of the league once, you know, the OGs are gone?
I think once Victor Wembanyama touches the NBA, he might, because like he is that next level of guy where it's just like when you say unicorn, like it could have been Kristaps, like it almost was before pre-injury, I guess ish. I don't know, who's to say. It's stretch, but in terms of like him being like a different type of guy where it's like we've never seen, something like this. I feel like it could really be him, depending on his success in the NBA. In terms of who's in the league, I feel like it's got to be Luka. Just in terms of like, he's probably going to get those MVPs next. He had his Western Conference push last year. Like, we'll see if there's a change of scenery for him at any point if he can't stand playing for Jason Kidd. But I feel like he's pretty there in terms of the steps, in terms of like, you need to watch him tonight because he's going to do something like that you haven't seen.
Yeah.
Job probably still, you never know.
So it's not Giannis.
I think in terms of like, it's him and Bron right now. Like, it's hard. They're goats. They're just goats right now. But in terms of like, who's going to be the selling guy, I feel like, I mean, they have to be taken out of the equation because like right now they are like, the torch is being passed from Bron to Giannis. And Giannis is going to have that for.
So you're saying essentially, if you're talking face of the league right now, it's Bron or it's probably Bron, and then Giannis is like right there. But like as long as Bron is here, it'll kind of be Bron because that's how I feel in a way.
Yeah, 100%.
So because what I really think Bron got like 3 max at best. I really think Bronny's first year might be his last. To be honest,
I think so. He's just like I'm gonna drink some wine.
And it just depends, but it depends on where he's at in the roster. Because if the Lakers somehow, some way become contenders in the next year or so, right? Because I don't think they're contending for a championship at least this year.
Yeah.
But if they find themselves being contenders next year, I think it just all depends on if he's in a space where I'm playing meaningful basketball. You know what I'm saying? So I think that depends on it. But so you're saying Giannis is already going to have it for a period of time, and the new crop of guys that we're talking about are just waiting to get it from him.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, it's always like that because like KD was, it was looking like it was gonna be his time, and then Bron is just Bron, where it's just like his career is just going.
Honestly, truly, I think there was maybe like a stretch of like a year or two where they were saying KD was the best as like
Bron's falling off.
Yeah, as Bron was coming out of his prime more than anything, he was just coming out of like his prime. But I mean, yeah, Bron's always been there, and
he always will be.
Yeah, facts. But yeah, so that's interesting. But it's interesting you brought up Wemby because when I was having this conversation before, honestly, it's supposed to be Zion.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, it really was. Zion. Just kind of hidden under this like murky cloud of like, will he play ever?
And it's hard because he just cannot stay on the court. But when you think about hype and meeting it when he's on the court, when you talk about the marketability, all the things we talked about, he has it. You know what I'm saying? So he's supposed to be him, but he just simply cannot if he's not gonna play full seasons and not going to play meaningful playoff basketball. Like
you're not wrong.
Just can't be. Wrong. But then to Wemby, it's just really hard, man. We have to let him get to the league first.
Because Chet was supposed to be one of those guys too in terms of like changing the look of the NBA big and then gets hurt in a pro-am. So
there's so many,
you're healthy.
As crazy as like the idea of Wemby is, there's just so much to consider. Like, I worry about his body. I worry about durability. Like we're seeing the issues that Kevin Durant has, right? All of these different type of leg injuries, this and the third. Obviously, it's not like any particular fault of anything, but you have to look at his frame as a factor. To a degree, right? So with Wemby, it's just kind of like, man, I'm not questioning his heart. I'm not questioning nothing like that. I'm just saying we've seen too many weird things happen to where it's like, yo, like it's just reason to be concerned. We got to see what this looks like when he's playing NBA basketball.
Yeah.
Like when he is going up against guys who are moving him around, like.
Hitting the deck after getting.
You have to see him get beat. We have to see him like endure an NBA season first, playing back to backs, the travel, the whole, like we have to see that first. Yeah. And because I don't doubt talent and skill, like he can hoop, so I don't doubt that he's going to show.
He's got some moves and talent.
I don't doubt that he's going to show his skill, but to put him to already be thinking about him being in that conversation, it's not far-fetched. It's just we have to be careful about these things.
Yeah. In terms of like the face of young basketball, he's all over social media. You know, it's like that's the start, and I'm just trying to like predict that forecast and be a little bit at a time.
It's gonna be insane, bro. It's gonna be insane how many people are going to how many more people, ironically enough, will probably be paying attention to basketball because of him.
Actually, though.
Really insane. Last but not least, so we've been talking about, we got about 20-ish games left, less, but we get into this last about 15. My summary of what I've seen thus far, like since the All-Star break, what we know is ahead of us looking at the playoffs. The Lakers, I don't know how dangerous, right? I don't know how dangerous.
Yeah.
But if LeBron is genuinely on the healthier side when he returns, because he still has to be evaluated. Yeah. So there could be a chance that he's genuinely not ready to go. However, if they are in the play-in playoffs, he'll play. I'm sure of it. But with their healthy roster,
they can do something. And they have the 28th easiest schedule remaining.
But the thing is, by do something, if they're healthy,
they're a contender in the West. Everyone's been so inconsistent in the West. They could be a contender in the West. They come out of the West.
They can get to the conference finals. And depending on their opponent, they could win. They could potentially, like, their roster is that solid. And I think that's the beauty. That's somewhat the beauty of, one, having a player like LeBron. But two, just the beauty of how the season can go, because sometimes all teams need is to be healthy and clicking when the playoffs start. And seeding doesn't really matter
at all.
You know what I'm saying? So it'll be really interesting to see. But I think the West will be interesting because there's still kind of so much to be seen. There's still so much to be developed by some teams. Like the Warriors don't look playoff ready. Right.
Not yet. No, they're so up and down right now. That win over the Bucks is one that's like, it shores things up, but they lost a really bad one against the Grizzlies the game before,
Yeah, but that's also a home game. I mean, they're terrible on the road.
They're awful on the road.
So there's that. The Clippers don't necessarily look playoff, and they're still filling out their rhythm with Westbrook. Outside of the Lakers, all the rest of those play-in teams, like Dallas, doesn't look playoff ready. I don't know what to make of Minnesota. Like they've been consistent, but I also don't know their ceiling without Cat.
Where is he? So
I don't know. So like Denver is Denver. Like I know what I'm going to get from Denver.
Their issue is the playoffs. What do they look like?
So it's also up in the air that it's kind of hard. It's like, man, I don't know. You don't know what team you're going to get really almost until the playoffs are starting almost.
And what the matchups are.
So, but I think that's not the case in the East though, right? Like I think the East are their top three teams. I don't see any team outside of Milwaukee, Boston, and Philly having a true shot. I think Philly, if the standings were to stay the same through the rest of the season, and we're 1, Boston is 2, Philly is 3. I think that Boston Philly series is going to potentially be. It's gonna that if they meet in the semis. I mean that's when they would meet. But like if that matchup happens, that's gonna be probably the most pivotal series of the entire playoffs potentially. That's also me not knowing the matchups of the West yet, though. But for sure in the East, that's gonna be the biggest one because and I would prefer it to be that way.
Oh
I would prefer not to have to play both of them if we don't have to. But yeah, but man, it's so that's why every game is so fun to watch because like, no, where are teams at right now? Like our teams win games late right now. That's why full circle moment. That's why I think Sacramento is so dangerous. Fox is clutch, man. He wants the ball at the end of the game. He wants to take the last shot, but he also knows how to just make the right basketball decision. And what a lot of people don't realize is defensively, it's just as dangerous. He's getting steals late in the game. He's a hound. So I can't wait, man. Like, yes, the regular season games, like to decide things are fun, but man, these playoff games, once we actually get matchups and everything, it's gonna be the really end, fun. That back half of April, like that first round, especially in the West at least, it's just gonna be a lot of really, really good basketball, man.
Yeah, I think the last 4 games, 2 of the last like 4 games for the Lakers are like Lakers versus Jazz, like 2 of the last few, and like those are so important. So
yeah, man, yeah,
crazy.
But no, that is it from us on this episode of the Right Quality, man. Into a lot of good stuff. We'll have more questions. We definitely got to bring at least a question a pod for sure. I think that's going. I think that'll be lit. But yeah, man. As games get more serious, as people start staking their claim for awards and things of that nature, we'll definitely have shows to address that. I really can't wait till the end of the season so we can finally do these top 10 current NBA player lists and top all-time player lists. Because then we got to bring people on for those, and we just gotta, we gotta have a blast with that one. But a lot coming your way for sure. But man, until next time, we'll catch them next week. My boy Emilio.
God. Peace.